He scared me. Tom did.
Uh-oh.
Because he is looking into the prop of team to draft Bijan Robinson.
Don't do it, Tom.
The New England Patriots.
Oh, boy.
And here is why I would hate that.
All across the fantasy universe, welcome everybody to the 2-Point Stance. I'm your boy, Brian Drake, on the Twitter machine at Drake Fantasy, hanging as I do every single week with the managing editor of FantasyPoints.com. It's Mr. Joe Dolan. Joe, we love to talk football. We love to talk NFL draft. Today, we're going to talk not only our favorite under-the-radar moves of the offseason, but we're going to do something that I know is near and dear to your heart. We're going to slide a little music in there too, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Drake. Good morning. It is Thursday. It's 420. I don't know if you're somebody who celebrates. Not right now, at least, as we do the show. But good to be with you on this 420. You got something lit back there. Looks like you're.
I got my little fireplace.
Fireplace.
I do the show in my basement, and
Yeah.
It gets freezing down here in Syracuse. It was 80 degrees this past weekend. Now it's back to reality where it's like 45 and the kids still want to wear shorts to school. In terms of like 420, I've never been into that. I'm a guy. This might be the lamest thing I've ever said in my life. I've never had a cigarette. I've never had a cup of coffee, but I'm also, I'm not a weed guy, and I'm a fraternity dude. I like lived in a frat house. We had guys at this house, the whatever you want to call it, there's no expectations anymore. We had guys selling everything out of this house. I mean, it was dazed and confused at our fraternity house. Give me a break. But I never partook. It wasn't my thing. I was just like, you know what? Just give me a can of Busch Light.
Wait a minute. You've never had a cup of coffee?
No. As if you watch, I have my 16-ounce energy drink for the show here. No, never had a cup of coffee. I hate the taste.
Well, you just had bad coffee then. Anyway, as I take my sip, it's good to be with you here. I wouldn't say coffee's underrated because it's incredibly popular, but this is a show about things that are underrated and, well, bottoms up.
Yeah, man. So everybody, when you listen to these fantasy podcasts, guys, you know it. If you're listening to this Fantasy Points feed, you've heard all the big names. You've heard about the moves of this guy to this team. You've heard that guy. It's nauseating. We get it. How about some of the under-the-radar moves that are really going to help your fantasy teams in 2023? We're going to start with some running backs on the move. And I want to start with Samaje Perine, Joe. Yeah. He leaves Cincinnati, lands with the Denver Broncos. The 28-year-old, he's going to try to steady the ship while Javonte nurses back to health from this knee injury. So maybe a lot of folks out there, the casual fan, that guy in your league who doesn't really pay that much attention, he doesn't understand that Javonte may not be ready for week 1. So Perine could have a bigger than expected role. He's not a great between the tackles runner by any means, right? Last year on 95 carries, he didn't even hit 400 yards rushing. But for fantasy, what we love, he's a capable pass catcher. That excites us. 2022, Joe, Perine caught a career-high 38 passes, and he scored on 4 of them. Underdog ADP right now is at 126, which is about round 11. And what also is great, Denver bolstered their offensive line. They brought in some talent to kind of open up some holes for Javonte and Samaje. And, oh, by the way, there's this guy, Sean Payton, who's now running the offense.
Yeah, and Samaje Perine, to me, just feels like a Sean Payton guy. Sean Payton is as great an offensive mind as he is, and I mean, I think that's pretty unassailable, right? He's frustrating for fantasy purposes. Fullback touchdowns, number 3 tight end touchdowns, the Taysom Hill BS, all that stuff has driven us nuts from Sean Payton. But Samaje Perine is one of those boring guys who I think Sean Payton will love. He's a good receiver. He had 38 catches last year, 4 touchdowns. He played 41% of the offensive snaps, which is a snap share that can be low-end fantasy relevant by itself, but you hit it right on the head. Javonte Williams, when that injury happened, Edwin Porras, our injury expert at FantasyPoints.com, compared that injury to that of J.K. Dobbins. Now, J.K. Dobbins suffered his in August of 2 years ago.
He's still not right.
And I don't think he's still 100%. Now, he came back at the end of last season and was producing. He had some long runs, but I think you remember, I believe it was against the Steelers where he had that long touchdown run. And it looked like it looked like the Greg Jennings Madden video. Like he was dragging his leg to the end zone. You know, like there was a significant hitch in his giddy up. So presuming
he'll come at you.
What's that?
AK will come at
God,
you.
oh, please. We should have spoken code on this podcast about him. And no, I'm gonna give him all credit for, by the way, fighting through that. For by all accounts, it was a devastating injury. So I'm gonna give him every piece of credit for that. But keep in mind that Javonte Williams suffered his injury about 6 weeks in comparison later than J.K. Dobbins did. Drake, I don't think if those injuries are similar, I don't think we can sit here and be certain that Javonte Williams is going to play football at all this season.
Javonte Williams right now has an underdog ADP of 79, which is a 7th round pick.
Which, you know, if the injury isn't that awful, then maybe that's fine. But we're already getting mixed reports about him. Samaje Perine at an 11th round pick is going to be on a ton of my teams. Because who's even to say if and when Javonte Williams gets back that Sean Payton's going to use him as a 65% of the snap share guy? I think that's a heck of an assumption to make. So they brought in Samaje Perine. They targeted him. This is a guy who is a boring as crap, but extremely defensible, if not outright attractive pick at his price.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the guys that are going ahead of Samaje Perine. Just before him, a guy we'll talk about a little bit later on the show, Damian Harris, Alexander Madison. Again, we have to see what happens with Delvin Cook. Brian Robinson going off the board. And we talked about Brian Robinson. I want nothing to do with Brian Robinson in any kind of PPR league. And Jamal Williams, who we'll get into here actually next. So Jamal Williams was the NFL leader in rushing touchdowns just a year ago, and he's found a new place to dance, and it's down in New Orleans. But the Red Sea could be parting for Williams as Alvin Kamara has potential legal issues, and if those come to fruition, a likely suspension looming, there's really nobody else here on the roster to steal carries for him. Wouldn't surprise me if they went out and drafted somebody in the draft next week. He's being drafted on the 9-10 turn on Underdog. Now, I don't think I love Williams as much as you do, Joe. He's a guy who does very well in short yardage, but in his career, he's always been the backup plan. Last year had his career year, only managed 62.7 yards per game. But I'll give you this. He can catch the football a little bit, probably better than most people give him credit for. So this offense led by Derek Carr, to me, seems pretty low octane, and I'm wary of his chances to fall 17 times into the end zone again. What are your thoughts on Jamal Williams?
Well, keep in mind, if you look at his receiving numbers from last year, just 12 catches for 73 yards, you're like, oh, this is a short, this is like Garrett Blunt reincarnate. But keep in mind, his career high catches and is 39, and he never had fewer than 25 heading into last year. So his role essentially completely changed. And we know he's going to be great at the goal line. And I feel like he's now one of those guys where he has the reputation of being a touchdown scorer. So I feel like players or coaches are going to use him in that regard. So I think while Taysom Hill is always going to be a threat to steal goal line work, I feel like Jamal Williams is now established as a goal line guy. Drake, I want to ask you a little question here, though.
Oh boy, it doesn't have to do with coffee, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Thank God.
Jamal Williams had 17 rushing touchdowns this past year. What was his career high before that?
Oh, I just had his stats pulled up. I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to say 4.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is,
don't drink coffee in the morning, kids. You won't get answers like that right.
That, by the way, I would have completely blown that question. I would have said, oh, that's a guy who scored 10 touchdowns multiple times. You know, no, but his career high is 4. As a matter of fact, his career high in receiving touchdowns is 5. So before last year, he actually had a season with more receiving touchdowns than rushing touchdowns. But I think that speaks to the point where you were saying there's some versatility to him. And if Alvin Kamara is going to get suspended, by the way, Kamara averaging 3.9 yards per carry the last 2 seasons, his first 2 seasons in the NFL with over 195 carries. I think there's a big role here for Jamal Williams, and he's a potential bell cow if Alvin Kamara is suspended. So I view him very similarly as a Samaje Perine type of asset for fantasy. I view them as almost interchangeable. I think there's somebody who you can get them really cheap. And I think that we're talking underdog now, but I think you can also speak to this for your redraft leagues come August. If these prices don't rise, and Jamal Williams' will, by the way, Javonte Williams' Samaje Perine's will if we get negative reports on Kamara and Javonte. But right now, it feels like these guys are boring players who you might get 4, 5, 6, 7 usable weeks out of. And you know what? That's fine. If Alvin Kamara is suspended 6 games or suspended, let's just say he's suspended 4 games, and he comes back in October and he's looking to set the world on fire, great. But what if Jamal Williams was averaging 15 to 20 touches per game over the first month of the season, and you're banking a 3-1 record heading into October? That's fine. Thanks for your service, Jamal Williams. I'll work the waiver wire and I'll find another RB2 I can use. See, that's the way you have to look at these things. When you're drafting a running back like a Jamal Williams in like the 9th, 10th, 11th round, or a Samaje Perine, those are guys who, if you get 4 usable weeks out of them, that's a win. This isn't like spending your first round pick on Jonathan Taylor. You need Jonathan Taylor to be somebody you get 14, 15, 16 usable weeks out of.
Mm-hmm.
At this cost, you get a month's use out of these guys. That's like a big time waiver pickup. This is the type of guy, these boring running backs. And by the way, Jamal Williams was in the boring running back tier last year that ended up being a league winning type of guy. He's right back in that this year. I love him at his ADP. He can do more in the passing game. I think there's a lot to like about Jamal Williams at this price.
All right, so we're talking about underrated players. We want to mix in some underrated songs too, things that you and I might have on our playlist that maybe everybody else doesn't have. And just kind of, we want to, we're still a new podcast here, right? For the Fantasy Points, we want you guys to kind of grow with us and learn a little bit about who we are as people. And Joe, you've got a pretty eclectic music taste. Yeah. I know this from talking to you off air. So hit me with your first under the radar song. So folks, get out your YouTube, punch these in and see what we're talking about.
So what you said to me was underrated. So
okay, underrated, fine.
Okay, and that is a very difficult challenge for me because I listen to bands who you might consider left of the dial. I'm not
below
like
NPR stations. They're playing on those.
Yeah, and honestly, I like NPR music, and I listen to I live in South Carolina, but I still listen to the independent college station from Philadelphia, WXPN, quite a bit. And I'm not saying that I'm on the ground floor of music, but I like, some bands that for instance, I could list you 25 drive-by trucker songs because people, they're not a mainstream band. So I would consider them underrated. So I had to put a restriction on myself. It had to be something that you've likely heard or you've heard of the band. And coming in with underrated songs, maybe, not one of a band's most popular songs. And I was listening a couple of weeks ago to the Batman Forever soundtrack. And let me tell you something.
Christ,
that thing slaps, okay? Obviously everybody knows Kiss from a Rose by Seal. There's a Flaming Lips song on there. There's an Offspring song on there. I know U2 is a very divisive band, okay? Tom Brawley hates U2. Absolutely.
You piss off the grinder. You've done something.
Bono's pretentious and whatnot. I happen to think U2 has some excellent pop chops. I love the Edge's style of guitar playing. U2 has a song on the Batman Forever soundtrack called Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, and it's awesome.
Sure.
So I think that is an awesome U2 song that it probably isn't among their more popular songs. It's not Where the Streets Have New Name or One or Beautiful Day or New Year's Day or but it is an awesome song. It's got a killer guitar riff. little kind of an attitude-y vocal by Bono. Like that one, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me by U2.
Man. If you guys want a great movie soundtrack, Forrest Gump from whatever that was, 90, 92, whatever. Tremendous. My pick from 1984. We're going back in the Wayback Machine here, folks. How old were you in 1984, Joe?
I was not born yet.
Oh, boy. We're going way back. This is Seven Spanish Angels, right? This is a duet with Ray Charles and Willie Nelson, right? I want you guys to go to YouTube, look this up. This is a beautiful song. This is a perfect day for it, for you guys out there who partake. Go light one up, listen to Seven Spanish Angels. Beautiful little melody. They really get rocking on the piano. Super fun. I want you guys to go into the YouTube comments. Leave us some underrated songs that you guys like listening to. And, I got some time on my hands today. I'll go through and listen to your guys' selections. All right, let's keep rolling with the fantasy talk here. The AFC East dominoes, I should say, they're falling as Damian Harris leaves New England for the sunshine and tropical vibes of Orchard Park, New York. So two-pronged take here. Number one, I dig Harris as kind of a big back for Buffalo. I think it's something they needed. He's not anyone, though, that I'm going to be targeting in drafts because we know Josh Allen, he's realistically their goal line back, and James Cook could take a shot ahead, but maybe better for reality than fantasy play. The reason I bring this up, because Damian Harris is gone, and now I love Ramondre Stevenson in New England. Yes, Joe, this team is a mess. Yes, they have the ghost of James Robinson, but Ramondre's legit good, and he's the only guy at the moment who's a real threat on their offense to do anything with his touches. He's only in his third year as a pro. This kid's in his prime. 1,000 yards last year on a team led by Matt freaking Patricia. Now he gets Bill O'Brien. He had 69. Nice. Receptions last year. ADP of 34. That's late round 3. Sign me up. Give me all the Ramondre this year.
What's Ramondre's ADP right now?
69. No, that was his passing.
No, that was his receptions total, right?
Yeah, 34. End of round 3.
Okay. Here is what scares me about him. And Ramondre was definitely one of our fantasy points calls that we got right last year. Shout out Andrew Callahan, by the way.
Hey,
my boy of the Boston Herald who put me onto that one. The thing that concerns me is something we might talk to Tom Brawley about. By the way, we're going to have, speaking of Brawley, we're going to have the grinder on the our Tuesday program, to borrow from Nick Saban. We're going to be talking NFL draft props, so that'll be a fun show to get done next week. He scared me. Tom did.
Uh-oh.
Because he is looking into the prop of team to draft Bijan Robinson.
Don't do it, Tom.
The New England Patriots.
Oh, boy.
And here is why I would hate that for multiple reasons. Number one, your point with Ramondre Stevenson. Number two, I would hate it for Bijan because Ramondre is good. So you plop Bijan in Foxborough, and that would just scare the bejesus out of me. Bijan's currently on Underdog back end of the first, early second. We've talked potential landing spots. For instance, look, we know my circumstances. What will happen?
Jumping off the roof.
I am getting drunk and jumping off my roof if the Eagles draft Bijan Robinson with the top 10 pick. But if Bijan Robinson were to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, he's a top three pick in all of fantasy, and there's going to be pieces written that he should be the 1-1. So keep that in mind. If he goes to the Chargers and the Chargers trade Austin Eckler, he's going to be a top 5 pick for fantasy. If he goes to the Bengals and the Bengals cut Joe Mixon, which seems increasingly likely, then he's a top 5 pick for fantasy. If he goes to New England on a bad team or a mediocre team where he has a good young running back alongside of him, I think that's going to tank the value of 2 potential great fantasy assets. And yeah, if the Patriots don't draft Bijan Robinson or don't draft like Jahmyr Gibbs or somebody like that, which is always a possibility with them, then I love Ramondre Stevenson this year. I'm just scared of Bill Belichick as we sit here a week before the NFL draft.
Is there a team that has been worse in the NFL draft called the last 10 years than the New England Patriots?
Well,
I mean, they're terrible.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert on, a team's drafting and developing of offensive linemen or, defense, but if in terms of skill positions, I will say the Patriots do pretty well at the running back position in the draft.
I mean, they drafted, 2-3 guys last year, so those kids are still sitting on the team.
And yeah, Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris were on that team. Kevin Harris got some run late in the year, so did Strong. So, but, they drafted and essentially redshirted Damian Harris. Years ago, they drafted and redshirted like Shane Vereen. They draft and let these guys kind of simmer. James White was the same way. They drafted and redshirted him. They're always a threat to draft a running back early. They've done it multiple years in a row. Remember they drafted Stephen Ridley. I think Ridley and Vereen came in the same draft class. Or it was either Ridley and Vereen or Ridley and White came in the same draft class. So they're always a threat to draft running backs, and that's what's scaring me about Ramondre right now.
If they don't add a running back and they just go as is, you comfortable with taking him at the end of the 3rd round?
I'd be comfortable taking him in the 2nd round.
Let's go! Let's go!
So what about Damian? So Damian Harris in Buffalo. I don't know. This one's interesting too because he's got an opportunity to. He's a good running back, by the way. He is. Damian Harris is good, and
as I said, better NFL move than fantasy.
Because he doesn't.
Most weeks he's going to run for 45 yards, and if he doesn't score, he gives you nothing.
Yeah, I think he's just somebody who coaches like. They like his physicality. They like his style. Devin Singletary ran hard, but he's undersized. And I think they wanted somebody bigger. I wonder what this does to James Cook. James Cook was a 2nd-round pick, remember?
Yeah.
You use a 2nd-round pick on a running back, there is expectations there. It's essentially like if you use a 2nd-round pick on a running back, it's like using a high 1st-round pick on a wide receiver. Like that guy should be a contributor and a big-time contributor. So I wonder if they're going to increase the usage of James Cook this year as well.
Just because it's 420 and people are going to be high and making crazy statements. What do you think of this? Derrick Henry is potentially on the move. I would love to see defensive coordinators have to set up and try to stop an offense where Josh Allen, Derrick Henry are in the backfield. And now you got, what are you playing? Single high safety. And now you've got Diggs running around out here. It would be so incredibly fun to watch defenses try to scheme up things against the Buffalo Bills. Probably won't happen, but again, 420, if you hear this, you go, Drake's high, sure, go with it.
Well, we do know that they were in the market for Christian McCaffrey, so they were looking for somebody to improve their run game. It could happen during the NFL draft, and I don't want to go off topic on the podcast, but Tennessee is just one of those teams. I don't know what they're doing. And we might need to wait until next Thursday, to really find out what they're doing. Are they going to make another run for it with Tannehill and Henry? Are they going to draft a quarterback and maybe move Tannehill and Henry? I really don't know what's up with that team.
Yeah, they're just having too much fun hanging with all of the bachelorette parties coming to Nashville.
I think they're a potential Trey Lance spot too.
Oh, I like
where
that.
You could stick with Tannehill. Trey Lance is 22, by the way.
I know Louise. They gave up 3 first-round picks to get him, and now all of a sudden it's, we're looking to get rid of him. But nobody's going to give you anything. What are you going to get? 3 for him? Maybe.
Drake, did you see the package Sam Darnold went for? And we knew Sam Darnold stunk.
Yeah, that's a good point.
People can really talk themselves into court. We don't know Trey Lance stinks. Now, the 49ers might have an idea, but us peons don't. He's played like 4 games. So, and anyway, I know that I don't want to go off topic, but
and now the 49ers office. And the 49ers are 100% putting out into the marketplace, hey, we're fielding calls for Trey Lance. Not like, it's a turn of phrase. They don't want to say, hey, please call us. They put out there, the 49ers are fielding calls. Yeah, they're dying for someone to come get this guy because they got Purdy, they got Darnold, and they want to recoup a little something. Give me another song here, Joe. A little, what are we saying? Underrated song from the Joe Dolan playlist?
Okay, so another criteria I had was a song that you've definitely heard that you might consider an annoying song. And I think the term one-hit wonder is used derisively, but oftentimes one-hit wonders are hits for a reason.
Okay.
And I'm not talking like the Macarena, which is obnoxious, or Cotton Eye Joe, which is obnoxious. I'm talking about a legitimately good song that you might consider annoying until you actually listen to it and realize that it's pop perfection.
Tell me it's Barbie Girl.
Oh God, no. It is from a similar era though. The album came out in 1998. The album is called Maybe You've Been Brainwashed Too. It is by the New Radicals. And the song is You Get What You Give.
Oh God, I remember that.
Now, people are like, oh, that song. Well, it's actually a pretty kind of cynical or sarcastic lyric. The instrumentation's perfect. It's a phenomenal song, and that record is top to bottom with just pop masterpieces on it. It's not You Get What You Give is not the best song on the album. The best song on the album is actually the opening track. It's called Mother, We Just Can't Get Enough. Which is just an absolutely soaring masterpiece. They released one album. The lead, you might remember the lead singer is the guy with the bucket hat. Was not happy with stardom. They released one album. He broke up the band and he went and he started writing songs behind the scenes. And they have one album. It has songs from front to back that are incredible pop songs, including You Get What You Give. The last song on the album is a song Crying Like a Church on Sunday, which is great. It's one of those records that like I think you should give a shot to if you like really good pop music, if you like 90s alternative rock. But yes, I think that song is a phenomenal. You look at some of the one-hit wonders from the 90s, and some of the songs are really, really good. Closing Time. I was going to say Closing Time by Semisonic, but I don't think anybody considers that underrated.
Right.
Flagpole Sitta by Harvey Danger is a phenomenal rock song. But that one I think is one where they might have the annoying one-hit wonder label to them, and I don't think it's deserved. I think that song's awesome.
I was a top 40 DJ in college, WJPZ, the world-renowned station at Syracuse University, and also at Oswego's only alternative, 88.9 WNYO. So I played a lot of those real obscure alternative songs at NYO and then at Z89, WJPZ, which is like the greatest college station of all time. We would play just all pop stuff. This was like a station that was legit pop station in Syracuse. So I would play like TLC Waterfalls for the 50th time that hour. And then I would immediately just turn down the microphone. I'm like, I put my radio announcer voice on, like, the beat of Syracuse, Z89, Drake here with you in the afternoon. And then I play the song and then I turn it right down. I don't want to hear any of these songs. My easy one, underrated. Love this tune right here. From Counting Crows, When You Dream of Michelangelo. Great tune, kind of sappy. I actually used the line in a tweet the day I lost to Graham Barfield, Kings Classic, Fantasy Football Championship. There's a great line from the song about fantasy football championships. It goes, let's see. But when I dream of Michelangelo when I'm lying in my bed. I see God upon the ceiling. I see angels overhead. And this is the fantasy football title line. And he seems so close when he reaches out his hand, but we are never quite as close as we are led to understand. Damn you, Graham Barfield, stealing my championship. I want that belt.
Doesn't he use that line in another Counting Crow song?
They probably, he's out there, man.
I think he uses it in Angels of the Silences.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I dream of Michelangelo when I'm lying in my bed. Yeah, little angels hang above my head. Read me like a... Yeah, so Counting Crows is another band who they get made fun of a lot, but I love some of their songs. I've heard they are terrible live.
Terrible. I've seen them. They're coming to Syracuse. I haven't bought tickets yet. Awful live.
Yeah.
Two worst bands I ever saw live: Black Crowes, who I love, and Counting.
The two Crows were terrible.
Crows. Were
awful. My boy TJ was like, well, when did you see him?
Oh boy, this was probably right before they broke up. I mean, they did a show. The first hour of the show was just like obscure Southern rock covers. People are like sitting down. Nobody even knew one thing they played. They're like, "Play She Talks to Angels." It's like it was terrible.
My boy TJ probably would have loved that show because he's into the Crows and loves the under the radar stuff that they do. The worst band I ever saw was Third Eye Blind.
Ooh.
But I've seen them twice. One show, they were incredible. The other, they were awful. So it's just one of those, like, one of those bands, I guess.
It happens. I mean, that's like seeing Baker Mayfield. When you see him in college, he's great. You see him in the pros, you go, who's this jabroni? And now Baker's down in Tampa Bay with this new look Bucks regime. So Brady's gone, Fournette's gone. Here comes Baker, Joe. This is a Bucks team that last year led the NFL in passing attempts with just under 800. There is no chance on God's green earth that Baker Mayfield is dropping back and throwing the ball 800 times this year. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, they got ADPs in rounds 5 and 6 respectively. That scares the crap out of me. Not ironically, I guess, they ran the ball the fewest times. So, hello, Mr. Rashad White. What are you thinking about this Tampa Bay offense with Baker under center?
I don't like it at all. Our guy, Ryan Heath, who's a new contributor at FantasyPoints.com, actually wrote up a piece this week that I would encourage you to check out at the website, where he called Rashad White one of the 5 most overrated players in all of dynasty fantasy football. Woo. I think in part because he views this offense as, but he also he views this offense as poor. But I think he also views what Rashad White did last year as not very good. He wasn't any better on the metrics on efficiency stats than Leonard Fournette. The line hopefully gets better. They had a lot of injuries last year. I don't know what to do with this Bucs offense, Drake.
To me, it's just kind of a void. I mean, I don't want to invest in a team that's rolling out Baker Mayfield. I mean, are you kidding me? You think this team's he's going to continue the streak of 1,000-yard seasons for Mike Evans? I mean, this team could win 4 games in 2023.
Underrated team to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes next year.
100%.
They're paying the Brady tax this year. And as I've said multiple times, they are happy to pay the Brady tax. He was there for 3 seasons. He got into the playoffs 3 times, and he got into the Super Bowl. All right? Any Buccaneers fan, they won the Super Bowl. Any Buccaneers fan would have taken that 3 years ago without question. But now they're paying the tax, and you understand that's going to happen. I think Mike Evans is a candidate to be traded during the NFL draft. I think they should trade him during the NFL draft. This move, look, Baker was awful last year, and I thought he was going to be a huge upgrade on Sam Darnold, who was awful the year before. He wasn't. He was worse. Is this Buccaneers offense better? In theory, yeah, it's better than the Panthers offense last year, but I just can't trust Baker. No way.
You mentioned the Panthers. They've got a slew of new wide receivers in town, and they're going to have a new quarterback. So I wanted to bring them up because it is kind of sneaky. When you look at DJ Chark and Adam Thielen alongside Terrace Marshall as your top 3 outside weapons, maybe they add someone in the draft. It wouldn't shock me. Of those 3 guys, I mean, DJ Chark, Thielen, I'm looking at DJ Chark and I go, man, you could probably get him for absolutely nothing in your draft. And it's just all upside. He could be the number 1 target in this offense.
Yeah. What are the ADPs right now on Chark and Thielen?
Let's pull them up.
Yeah, okay. Put them up there.
Pull them up. Carolina, wide receivers. It's populating. Oh, it didn't want to populate that fast.
All right.
One second.
Well, I'm just going to.
It ran away on me.
I'll riff on this while you're saying it because I can't imagine they're very expensive.
No.
And DJ Chark, Adam Thielen. I mean, what? Look, I think Bryce Young is going to come in. And I believe Bryce Young's going to be the pick, by the way. And I've been saying for weeks, like, I know, like, people are like, oh, Richardson, and he's got the highest ceiling. I was talking to somebody who's in the league, and he said, Anthony Richardson is getting somebody fired no matter what. He said, he's getting a GM fired if he hits his ceiling because they passed on him, and he's getting somebody fired if they drafted him because he doesn't hit his ceiling. And I've been saying for a long time that I just feel like Bryce Young is a phenomenal player. Bryce Young is I think he fits the modern NFL. I think he has high football IQ, and I think he's the right pick at number 1. And oh, you all right, Drake?
Button. No, I'm not. I'm dying over here.
Yeah. So I think Bryce Young's going to be the right pick. I think the guys that they have at wide receiver are completely fine in Adam Thielen and DJ Chark. I think he's going to be an adequate ball distributor, and I think both of those guys are way too cheap at ADP right now. But I agree with you that Chark is probably the guy I would target more because he's cheaper than Adam Thielen. I'm actually showing Adam Thielen Adam Thielen's wide receiver. Oh, he's in the 60s. He's like a 12th round pick. DJ Chark here
141 for Adam Thielen.
Yeah, that's a 12th round pick. I have DJ Chark as a 13th round pick. Again, one of those, I'll take either one of those guys in every draft right now. They're obviously a candidate to draft a receiver in the 2nd and 3rd round. I was reading Bob McGinn's stuff up at Go Long TD. Bob McGinn, who has who's cultivated relationships with scouts for 40 years. And there's scouts in that piece that he wrote yesterday that said this is the worst wide receiver class they've seen in recent memory. So I don't know if any wide receiver is going to get drafted and come in here and nuke the value this season of Adam Thielen and DJ Chark. I'll take those guys with a much better quarterback, a quarterback I'm high on in Bryce Young.
Exactly. That's, your 4th, 5th wide receiver at somebody, even in a best ball, I think you can get some really solid weeks out of Chark and Thielen. And if you're playing best ball, we know you're doing it at Underdog Fantasy. Use our promo code FantasyPTS. We're going to match your first-time deposit up to $100. Put $100 in, we're going to match your $100. Now you're playing with $200 on Underdog. They got contests going already for the 2023 NFL season. Along with that, we're going to give you a $5 subscription to FantasyPoints.com. That's right. Come read all our work for just $5 after you deposit at Underdog Fantasy using promo code FantasyPTS. All right, we're talking wide receiver. One we haven't really got to yet, Joe, was Odell Beckham. So he's in Baltimore. They haven't yet signed Lamar Jackson. We don't know what's going on there. They do have a different offensive philosophy. Greg Roman is out. They're going to have a more pass-centric, we would imagine, offense in 2023. Is Odell Beckham still a thing? Or are we chasing fantasy ghosts, as I've tweeted several times?
What's his ADP right now?
Odell Beckham at 130. So you're looking
probably going up, by the way. If he doesn't go a whole lot higher than that, I'm fine with it. Just in the event there's something left. I'm not really sure what to think. By the way, I think the world of Todd Monken. I think he's a great play caller. Back-to-back national championships at Georgia. I thought he did a great job with the Bucs a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Let's see what happens with Lamar. I think, as we mentioned on our Jalen Hurts Mea Culpa podcast, Lamar's dreams of getting a fully guaranteed contract are over. If Jalen Hurts, who has led his team farther than Lamar Jackson's led his team, I know Lamar's got an MVP. You would think a Lamar contract is going to look similar to a Jalen Hurts contract. He's not getting a fully guaranteed deal. It's not happening at this point. And it's probably reached a point where both sides need to come to reality, come to Jesus, and come together. And I think Lamar will be back with the Baltimore Ravens at this point. I'm fine with Odell where he's getting drafted. If he rises into the 6th or 7th round, I will have no piece of him. Did you see the graphic that our boy Trey Camberling put together a couple of weeks ago when Odell signed with the
catches by presidential administration?
Yeah, the 100-yard games. He's had 0 in the Biden administration. And I think he had fewer in the Trump administration than Larry Fitzgerald.
Wow.
So that just goes to show you how long it's been since Odell Beckham was truly great.
That's why I keep saying we're chasing the ghost of fantasy here. Odell Beckham is the new Josh Gordon. We are going to chase that 2003 Josh Gordon season for the rest of our lives. Odell Beckham is living off that one helmet catch.
It wasn't that long ago, 2013, Drake.
Or 2013, excuse me. Yeah, I was trying to think when I won my fantasy championship, I had Josh Gordon. I wanted to look over and look at the trophy. So, damn it, I screwed that up. That would have been a great piece for social. I'll just restart it. We'll do it again. But yeah, we're chasing that ghost with Odell all the time. He made the one great catch on Sunday Night Football, and we can never get over it again. So yeah, I'm out on Odell. I don't care when.
By the way, he's not just a one catch guy. Like, I mean, he was all-time great at the start of his career. It's just he hasn't been all-time great since the start of his career.
Yeah, it ain't anywhere close to the start of his career anymore. One more team or one more player that signed, and I want to get your take on it. We do a lot of Philadelphia-centric things here. You and I both like the Eagles. We haven't touched a ton on Rashad Penny. Now, this could very easily change if Philadelphia adds someone like a Bijan Robinson next week in the draft. But at the moment, Rashad Penny is on the roster and has a chance to gain a lot of touches. He's going off the board on Underdog at 102. That's a 9th round pick.
Still too low.
On a team in Philadelphia where, they're going to touch the ball a lot. They're going to run the ball a lot. He's going to have a lot of chances around the goal line.
How much of this with Rashad Penny? Now, I know the majority of it is people don't trust Rashad Penny to stay on the field. That's why Rashad Penny, despite his historically great efficiency metrics, whenever he's been healthy, is still a 9th round pick for fantasy football and was only able to get a 1-year deal with the Eagles for pocket change. How much of this do you think, Drake, is being artificially suppressed because of the Bijan Robinson specter?
It's a good question to have, because if you want to get ahead of things and draft on Underdog right now, use code FantasyPTS, this is the time to buy Rashad Penny, because his price, I guess, with the Eagles will never be lower. The Eagles led the league in rushing touchdowns last year with 32. I mean, will that continue? Probably not, but let's say it comes back into the ballpark of everybody else.
Who's going to challenge them for rushing touchdown lead?
I mean, you had Dallas last year had 24, gone is Zeke Elliott. Detroit had 23, gone is Jamal Williams, who had 17 of those. Then it was the Giants, followed by the 49ers. I could say the 49ers or Cleveland, I think, could be close to that. Maybe the Bears with Justin Fields, but the Eagles will probably blow the doors off the competition again.
I mean, I don't know. You taking the Eagles? I guess if you have the Eagles or the field, the odds are in your favor just to take the field because of what happens, if Jalen Hurts gets hurt. But man, Rashad Penny, if I'm doing an Underdog draft today and he's my 9th round pick and the Eagles draft Bijan Robinson, which again, I said I don't think is happening, then so freaking be it. I used logic and I used Howie Roseman's history to make a pick that I thought was a viable pick, and it didn't work out. Whatever. It's not that expensive a pick. I mean, this is a guy who I think if they don't draft a running back early, and by that I mean on day 1 or 2 of the NFL draft, and we're getting the reports. Oh my God, Rashad Penny looks amazing in camp. This guy's a 6th round pick by July.
It kills me. I know he's not going to be a factor in the run game. Not that Jalen Hurts is going to passing game. Not that Jalen Hurts is going to dump the ball off to the running backs all that much anyways, but I like Rashad Penny a lot more in best ball. And that's a cop out to say. I like him more in best ball than I do maybe in a managed league, because I think there's going to be a lot of weeks where you plug Rashad Penny in as your RB2 or flex, and he's going to run for 65 yards and no score. And you're sitting there, with your phone in your hand, staring at 6.5 points.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I can see the upside here. I know you're not you did not like the Rashad Penny move for the Eagles.
No, it's fine. I don't think people thought he's going to come in. Now he's the man. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think it is going to be an extreme committee. They liked what they saw to Kenny Gainwell. Kenny Gainwell got a shit ton of run in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And I think Kenny Gainwell, more than anyone else, is going to be a guy that behind Jalen Hurts maybe leads them in touches.
This is touches. Gainwell was my most drafted running back on Underdog last year, and it was terrible for like 3 months, and then in the last month and in the playoffs, unfortunately the playoffs don't count for Underdog best ball regular season titles. I was like, oh yeah, there's that guy I was drafting. I'll probably be drafting Gainwell again, and I'll be a sucker again. But I think it's just a matter of I'll take any Eagle running back, and if that means I have some Penny early and I've got some Gainwell later, or even Boston Scott in the 18th round, then so be it. I'm sure there'll be some Trey Sermon hype during training camp as well. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. This is a team that ran for 32 touchdowns last year. A large portion of those were to Jalen Hurts. A large portion of those were not to Jalen Hurts. So this is a run game you want to invest in.
Yeah, no question about it. Before we get out of here, one final song. Give me a song that people should be humming the rest of the day after listening to this podcast.
Okay. So I have gone on the record as saying my 1-1 in all-time song drafts is God Only Knows by the Beach Boys.
I like that.
It reminds me of my dad. I just think it's a perfect song. But there is a song, and I'm not Justin Fensterman. I'm not like this Beach Boys super fan.
First concert I ever attended, Beach Boys, New York State Fair. Was
Brian Wilson there?
Yeah, I mean, this is like 1989.
I don't know, because if Brian Wilson wasn't there, it wasn't the Beach Boys.
John Stamos was there, I can tell you that.
Oh my Lanta. But so there's a song from their like scrapped album, which was called Smile, which was supposed to be like their magnum opus and the great follow-up to Pet Sounds, which is obviously I have a vinyl Pet Sounds back there. You can't see it. This was supposed to be this amazing follow-up that they just never really completed, but the songs got out there anyway. There's a song called Surf's Up, and obviously this is when Brian Wilson was in his deep artsy phase, and it was a obvious callback to the history of the Beach Boys, but the song has nothing to do with surfing. And it's layers of incredible vocals, just out there lyrics. I would encourage you to look it up. Look up the Beach Boys Surf's Up. It's hard for me to explain, but since they have my 1-1 on my all-time songs draft with God Only Knows, I wanted to point out maybe a lesser known Beach Boys song. Again, very nothing cool to do with surfing. Just a really, really magical piece of music.
Sticking with 90s semi-pop bands, I love the band Train. I've seen them maybe more than any other band ever. Super underrated vocals. Pat Monahan, I'd put him up against anybody. The guy literally was asked by Van Halen to go back out, or Led Zeppelin, excuse me, to go on tour with them. They did a Led Zeppelin cover album. He's that gifted vocally. They did a song. It's a cover of the band Sugar. And this song is oh geez, I just forget about it. If I Can't Change Your Mind. And it just, boom, it hits you right off the front. Really high energy, fun song. Go check out If I Can't Change Your Mind by the band Train.
I don't know much about Train. I do know that the lead singer ended up in one of those Hallmark Christmas movies that my wife watches. And I was like, is that the Train guy? And he was in it. And coincidentally, my wife's name is Virginia. So that would be the only thing I know is that the only thing I know about Train is that we asked the band on her 21st birthday if they could play Meet Virginia, and they didn't know it, so they didn't.
Oh man, Train's real good. So yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed our look at some of the under the radar moves in the off season thus far, and things are going to change. It's going to be hot and heavy with the NFL draft. Your place to get all the information is fantasypoints.com. We've got some fun draft day things going on at the site, don't we? Don't we have a live draft show going on that Thursday night for the opening
Thursday
day?
And Friday.
Kick ass.
I have to talk to you about that, Drake, as well, because we're going to have a rotating slate of guests. I think you and I should get together on Sunday evening, pre-succession, and probably do like a fantasy recap. Maybe we'll go team by team and just like, hey, here's what changed for fantasy. I think that would play really well. We're going to have Tom Brawley on Tuesday before the draft for all your favorite player props. Fantasy Points is going to be all over on our YouTube channel. Brett Whitefield and Scott Barrett. Brett bringing kind of the film perspective, Scott bringing the model perspective. Those two are going to get into it. They're going to fight on the live stream. And I will be on the channel live on Thursday night when I find out if I have to get drunk and jump off my roof.
Let's
You
go,
will
baby.
see my reaction live. I'm not going to do it right away. I have to figure out the best way for me to do that while not permanently damaging myself. But we will see what happens, because if the Eagles draft Bijan Robinson in the top 10, I am getting drunk and jumping off my roof. I do not believe it will happen, but we will see.
We need to trade down to 11. Let's go just to say.
I kind of feel like that would be. I would have to pay up somehow if they do that.
Yeah,
But,
you just
we'll
stand
see.
on the roof and wave your bottle of Evan Williams. So.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, thanks so much for hanging with Joe and I. Remember to follow us on Twitter. I'm at Drake Fantasy. Joe is at FG_Dolan. So long and good night.